Hi everybody, and welcome to Sew Along with Jan. We're going to try something new in the year of 2024. I'm going to do a series of videos that are going to be pre-recorded for you, and we're going to do lives, of course, still. But I kind of wanted to do these little Kimberbell mini quilts, and I thought, well, how can I get these all done and have other classes too? So what I decided to do was do these pre-recorded. So each month you'll get a pre-recorded video. So I'm hoping to do them like the month before. So like this is January, and I have to say this one's going to be a little late. This is the end of December, actually the last day of December. This is December 31st. And I'm not going to quite get them done by the 1st of January, but I hope to have most of the other ones done before the 1st of the month. So we'll do the February one in January and so on. So you'll have these. So anyway, we're going to do one video with the embroidery part, and then I'll have a pre-recorded video for the finishing, because they're all going to be finished the same way, and I'll have a pre-recorded video for that, so you can go back and reference that each month. And these are going to be quilted in the hoop, so these are all the little squares. These are all, the January one is all little 4x4 squares actually. So we're going to quilt each one of these little snowmen, they're so cute, in the hoop, and then we're going to join the squares together that they already have batting in them. And then we're going to stitch in the ditch, and then we're going to put with the backing on and then add the binding. I'm going to do a little something different. I want to add the backing on here, but I also want to add a sleeve to hang them with, because I have this cool little frame. I'll link all of this stuff in the video description below, the CD for this and so on. But I have this frame, see if I can reach it here. I have one of these frames, and it is a Eckfeld frame, and this is a 12x14 frame. And I wanted to put all of these cute little guys in my frame because I have one of these in my living room, and I like to hang a little quilt on it each month. So I'm going to add a sleeve to the back of this little mini quilt so that I can hang it over this little arm here. So this is the Eckfeld 12x14 standing frame. I don't have this one put together, as you can see. It is see if maybe you can see this picture if I hold it up. There you go. So it looks like that. I don't have the one with the little twirl on the front. Mine's just the plain one. Mine's just plain like the one over here. So, but you just stand it up, and then I'm going to put these little quilts on here. So this is the series for the year of 2024. We'll have I'm going to make the little sleeve for the back and show you how to do that in the second video. So the first video is going to be, we're going to do the embroidery on these, and then the second video will be the assembly. Okay, so what we need for this project, you need to buy the CD. It's called Mini Quilts Volume 1. It's January through June. So the first CD just came out, I can't remember, it was October, maybe November, for the first 6 months of the year. Okay, so we'll have the second set of, or CD, I should say, will come out a little later on in the year. So Mini Quilts Volume 1, and I will link this in the description of the video below to our website where you can purchase it. So you'll need that CD. It does not have a book, so you do have to print your own instructions. I'm just going to print them 1 month at a time, and then I'm going to bind them. I might actually end up binding all of them in my comb binding machine, just because then it's easier to turn the pages. This one I don't have bound yet. Okay, so this is just January. I just printed off January so I could do this. The other thing you need, second here, and I would highly recommend this, because after looking through these, they have an embellishment kit for these mini quilts for the first 6 months. And it is definitely worth it, because there's a whole bunch of little pieces on all of these. And so I just bought the embellishment kit, and each one is separated here. So there's all these the 6 little folders, and like I pulled out the January one. So January had quite a lot of stuff, including some little knit, and I just didn't want to have to go try to find all those things. So I'd recommend getting the embellishment kit, and I'll link that in the description below the video as well on the website. So you need the CD and the embellishment kit. I just used my own fabric. So if you want kits, I'm sure there's kits out on the internet. So if you want to do that, you can order kits. I am just going to use my own fabrics. Okay. So, so that's the first things you need. And then I'm going to put everything in my Ackfeld 12 by 12 stand, my 12 by 14 stand or whatever it is. Okay. So let's open this book up and see what else we need to do. So I've got everything kind of prepared here. So we're going to be doing like 9 little blocks. So it's sort of like a 9 patch. If you can see, it's like a 9 patch in the center here. And we're going to be doing 9 little blocks in this video. Now, some of them are going to be very similar. So what I'll do is I'll get you started, get the design started, and then I'll just turn the camera off so that this video is not so long. But I knew I had to go through some of the setup with you first here. So, okay. So what I did is I went through and I picked my embroidery thread colors. So I picked my fabric first. And what I did then is I kind of like to pick my fabrics first. And I look at the pictures and I just pick stuff that I think is about the right colors that look similar. And I don't have the exact fabrics, but they're similar fabrics. And then this is my backing and my binding here. I haven't cut it yet. And then I take and match the colors of my threads to those things. So like I took out my little January embellishment kit, and see it has all these little hats. These are all for the little snowman's hats. And so I went and I matched up the threads to these hats. Hat colors, one's black and white, of course, but then these pinks and the blue. I just matched, so when it said, you know, a mauve, I tried to match this because I assumed I'd be sewing around that. And then this blue was kind of a blue gray. So I matched that. And the red, I matched that with jockey red. Okay, so these are all brother colors. So I used white, the mauve 0205 for this. I used pumpkin orange with 126, which is for the noses on the little snowman. Jockey red 1019 for this one. Black, of course, and then there was a light blue, which is 1226, and it ended up being a little bit more on the minty color. And then I used a sky blue, which matched this fabric. Okay, so this is sky blue, which is 019, I believe. Yep. And then that gray blue here that matched this nicely was called, it was gray aqua, 1228. And then I used meadow green, which is kind of it's more of a mossy green. Okay. And then I used Fashion Glow 1321, and meadow green was 1089, sorry. And then the Fashion Glow matched this quite well. And so it is 1321. So that's how I kind of pick my colors. I look at the fabrics that I'm going to be using in it, and I assume that those are the things I'm going to be sewing around. So the best way to do that is just, you know, try to match the best you can. Okay. All right. So we got the colors. So that's my fabrics, or my threads. And now let's look at the fabric here. So I did pick my fabric first, and the fabric, you don't need a ton of fabric. You need 4 6.5 by 6.5 inch pieces of this blue. Now this is not the blue they use, but it's close. It's one of the Kimberbell blues, and I thought, well, that's close enough, so we'll use that. Okay. And then I needed kind of a light gray, and I had this piece with the little lines in it, and I thought that looks kind of neat, so I think I'll use that. And you needed 5 of those, 6.5 inches by 6.5 inches. Okay. So I have those, and then this fabric is going to be my binding and my backing, this blue. Okay. And I'm going to make a sleeve out of that. So I'll show you that in the second video. All right, let's see here. What else do we have? That was page 3. Whoops, second here. Get the pages. That's why I like to bind them, because otherwise I get them all mixed up. Okay. And then this is why I decided I was going to get the embellishment kits. I don't always get them, but when I started looking at all of these little pieces, I thought I'm never going to be able to find all of those little pieces. So I bought the embellishment kit. So I'd highly recommend that. Now, the one thing I have to say I don't do is it goes down here and it shows you how to cut all the little pieces up in your embellishment kit. I honestly don't. I just pull them out and hold it over the area and I just trim it. So I don't actually trim them down to the sizes they say, because sometimes I feel like, you know, I can save a little fabric that way, and then I'll have some scraps left over for something else. So I didn't cut my embellishment kit stuff up. All right, so that was on page 5. Let's see here. And then you need some batting. You need some fusible backing, and then the fusible backing is Shapeflex. So I have already adhered Shapeflex to the back of each one of my pieces of fabric, and it's possible as we get into this that there was something else that needed to have a little Shapeflex, but I don't think so. I think these were all like heavy enough you didn't need to use Shapeflex on the back. Sometimes you'll use that to block color, but I don't think so in this case. Okay, so then here's our gray, and I've got the gray with the Shapeflex on the back of each one, and then here's my blue. So I got all of those with my Shapeflex on. So it tells you to do that in each instruction as I kind of read through it for each block. And then I'm going to be using no-show mesh in the hoop. So I've got that in my hoop here, and we're going to be using a 4x4 hoop. Actually, no, I think we might have to use a 5x7. Might have to use a 5x7, actually. I'm going to have to go get a different hoop, but we're going to use no-show mesh stabilizer in our hoop, and that's all that we're going to be hooping. But I think we do need to use a 5x7 because of the quilting. It'll be 4.5 by 4.5. So we'll go over the quilting here in a minute. So yeah, so I grabbed the wrong hoop. That's okay. All right, let's see here. All right. Boy, those embellishments, there was a lot of embellishments. Okay, so since we're going to be quilting these in the hoop, I'm going to be using option on when you get to the instructions here. It says stabilizer, light mesh cutaway stabilizer, fusible backing, which is my Shapeflex over here. Iron that on. And option 1, you can just do it and then quilt them later. That's option 1. But option 2 is going to be, oh, I'm sorry, option 1 is the quilt as you go. Option 2 is if you're going to quilt them after the fact and quilt them like free motion afterwards. So we'll be using option 1, and it's going to tell me what quilting design they use. Now, it's not necessary to buy quilting designs. You can use some of the ones you have already. I happen to have these, so I am going to use the ones that they call for in the instructions. And most of this one was done with the Winter 5. There's a couple of other ones too, but the first block is Winter 5, and it's the 4x4 design. So when I see that, that means that I definitely need a 5x7 hoop, because my quilting design is going to be about 1/2 inch bigger. So needs to be in my 5x7 hoop then. So we'll change the hoop here in a second. Okay. All right, so then we're ready to embroider. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab my other hoop and get my stabilizer in it, my no-show mesh stabilizer. And oh, the other thing that I found on the CD was this. And this is the Mini Quilts quilting guide. And I thought this was cool because it tells you which design you're using in each of the blocks for each month. And so there are a couple of different ones. It's Winter 5, Pebble 2, Loops 3. I think there was just like 3 different ones in this January one. So this little chart gave you each of the designs, the quilting designs for each month. So I thought that was nice that you could see it a little bit more just by itself. But they do tell you in the instruction sheet here under option 1. Okay, so I'm just going to turn the camera off for a moment because I have to go grab that other hoop, and let's just get started doing some embroidery. Okay, so I've got my 5x7 hoop now, and we are going to be using block 1 is the fabric 1, so it must be the gray. So I'm going to pick a gray piece of fabric here that has my Shapeflex on the back. So we'll put that up here. Put the other fabric to the side. And we are going to be doing the quilting first, since we're going to do option 1. And we are going to use a neutral color. I think I'm going to use white on the gray, and then I think I'll use the blue that matches the fabric to quilt the background on the blue. Let's see. Okay, so we first need to bring up our quilting design. Since we're going to be quilting in the hoop, we're going to start with the quilting. And I'm going to go into embroidery and to my stick. And let's see, where did I put it? Holiday Mini Quilts, here we go. And here's the background quilting. And this one, they call for winter 5. So let's see, it must be down here at the bottom probably. Winter, whoops, here. Spring loops, winter 5, here it is. It's at the top. Embroidery, PES. And the one that we need is the 4x4, okay? And I just stuck the ones on that I needed for this particular design on here so that I didn't have to go hunt through a bunch of them. But when you buy winter 5, it'll be like all of the sizes, you know. So this one is just the one that I need. Okay, so I'm going to get that first, and I'm going to set it. And it says align the block embroidery file with the quilting design file so that both files are centered. So when we go to bring in our embroidery file, we're just going to center it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit add down here. I'm going to go back to my stick. So we got our quilting design first, and then we're going to go back down to the mini quilts, and we're going to go to the embroidery files, and we're going to go to January. And January is the first one's going to be Chillin with my Snowmies. So here's Chillin with my Snowmies, or Snowmies. We're not doing gnomes, we're doing snowmen. So it's Snowmies, Chillin with my Snowmies. So we're going to click that, and again, we're going to leave it centered. So on the Brother Baby Lock machines, when you choose the designs, they come in automatically centered in the hoop. So if you look at the size of my design, it's obvious then that I need to have a 5x7 hoop. Okay, because it's 4.5 by 4.5. All right, so let's see here. I think all of that is done for option 1. Okay, so each one of the quilting designs, just so you know, does have its own instructions. And I do have a slightly different way that I do the quilting, because I'm a little lazy and I don't like to cut all the batting. So I'm going to show you how I do it, which is not with all the trimmed batting and everything, because they have you cut your batting to the right sizes and all that, and I just never have done that. I just hold my batting up and trim it off, because you have to trim it anyway. So I always have done that instead, and it works really well that way. So the first thing that we're going to do, of course, is the quilting. So I'm going to go ahead and hit embroidery down here. And the first step, and all of the quilting designs are the same. The first step is going to be a placement line for the batting. Okay, so that's the first step that's up there. So I've got my white thread in my needle. I just have regular bobbin thread, and I use pre-wound. Second here, I got a new camera arm, so I apologize. My camera is going to be a little wonky here. I'm struggling with where it moves to. It moves differently than my old one, so okay. So I've got my no-show mesh in the hoop. That's all I'm going to put in the hoop, 5x7. And then I have the first step, I've got the white thread in the needle. So I was just going to use a neutral thread, probably for whatever I'm going to be quilting with. So like for the gray ones, I'm going to quilt them in the white. And then the blue blocks, I'll quilt them with this blue that matches it. So we'll put that in for those. Okay. And then we're going to do the placement line first for our batting. And I've got just a chunk of batting here that I'm going to use. I quilt, so I have a quilting machine, so I've always got batting chunks. So I'm just got some batting here. It's actually in a long, skinny strip, and I'm just going to hold this up instead of doing all this extra cutting, because you have to trim it anyway in the hoop. So I find this so much faster. Okay. This is Hobbs 80/20 batting. It's my favorite batting to use. It's soft, but it's got a little bit of plush to it, so it's a little bit poofy. Okay, so then I'm going to lay my batting down, and the second step is going to be the tack down line for the batting. Just going to sew that down. I can't remember if it goes around twice or not. It might. Get my scissors ready to trim. Yep, it's going to go around twice. I was so anxious to do these, and I thought, well, how can we do these and everything else we want to do on Sew Along with Jan? And I thought, you know what? We're just going to pre-record these videos so that you can have an extra video every month. So I thought this would be fun, and it'll be fun for me too, because I've been wanting these for my stand. All right, so now we're going to trim these close to the stitches. And again, you can print out the instructions for each one of the quilting designs if you want. I normally don't, because I've done this so many times that I don't need them anymore. And I don't trim the batting. So I've just got this strip over here. Here's the rest of it over here. I'm just going to throw it on the floor, and we'll use it for the next one. Trim this down. I also feel like I don't waste as much, because I'm not, trimming off all these little, I just trim a little bit off, and then I have that big piece down there that I can use for the next block. And that block will more than do this whole little quilt. Okay, so there's the batting. The third step in all of the quilting designs are going to be is going to be a placement line for your fabric. So I'm going to do the placement line. I'm doing these all in white. Not sure that it's going to catch. Second, we're going to have to check that. So if you have problems with your thread catching, I get this question a lot. And you notice that I'm just sewing on batting here. If you have trouble with your thread not catching doing running stitches, don't despair. It's nothing wrong with your machine. For one thing, you're only sewing on batting. So this is a good opportunity for me to show you this. What I do, if I have that trouble, is I take my bobbin out, I bring it around, but I don't cut it off. So I'm not cutting it off down there. I'm leaving that tail. Because what happens is when it cuts, sometimes the tail's a little on the short side, and it just won't quite catch or tie in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up to start this part of the design over again. So this is step number 3 again. And let's see, I bet you it'll catch now. So that's my trick that I use, is I just take the bobbin out, see how it caught, and now I've got stitches around there. Okay, so don't panic if that happens. It's mostly because you're sewing on just stabilizer, because there's really nothing for it to hang on to. And sometimes after the machine cuts, the little tail's a little short, and it just doesn't quite have enough to knot off. Okay, so then we're going to lay our backing piece down in the hoop, and I'm going to try to get it as centered as possible. It's plenty big enough, so don't worry. Okay, and then the fourth step of all of the quilting designs is always going to be the tack down line for the fabric. So we're going to tack that down. And I am using a pre-wound bobbin, so I always like to tell people I use pre-wound bobbins, and that is absolutely fine. But at this point in our Brother Baby Lock machines, we really need to be using the tighter bobbin case, which is the bobbin case with the blue dot in the center, for pre-wounds. If you wind your own bobbin thread, you do not need to do that. You can stay with the bobbin case that has like the green paint here on the screw. If you're winding your bobbins, this is the bobbin case you use. If you're using pre-wounds, you use the one with the blue dot in the center. Okay, so that's a good way to remember it. Then the fifth step of all the quilting designs is going to be the actual quilting. So now we're going to do the cute little quilting here. And it is really cute. It's got like a little scarf on it and some little earmuffs, and and it's got a carrot nose and like stick arms. So like little stick arms, I suppose, from the Snowman. So it's very cute. They often kind of coordinate the quilting designs with the design. But if you don't have this one, it's fine. Just use another one that looks wintry. It's absolutely fine. I have all kinds of different ones of these. And I could have used any of the other ones that I already had. So anything that's wintry would be good. All right, so now we're doing the quilting. So this is step number 5. And this is all before you get to the actual instructions. So now then we're ready to do the actual instructions. And this one says, let's see, the actual instructions, stitch the Chillin with my Snowmies. Okay, so now if you look over here, now I'm ready to stitch out the cute little sentiment in the center. Okay, so that one I'm going to do with my, let's see, I think I'm just going to use my matching thread to my fabric, and this is a 019 Sky Blue. So we're going to switch to that, and we will do the letters. So I'll get them started, and I'll pause the camera for a little bit while it's sewing. But we have plenty of these little guys to do today. So today is embroidery day for this. I was really looking forward to making these. So, okay, so there is my, we're going to do Chillin with my Snowmies. And this is, I think it's kind of a little, it's hard to tell on the instructions, but it looks like it's sort of a motif stitch fill, and then a satin stitch maybe around the outside edge. So it's a little hard to see. I can't quite see it on the screen either. So this is our lettering. So we're going to do, this is step number 6 since we did the quilting first. And then I'm going to let this stitch out, and I'll come back when it's closer to being done. Okay, so there's Chillin with my Snowmies, and the next step, is some little snowflakes. So I'm going to switch back to my white for that. And it does give you in the instructions the colors that you need for the different steps, and it shows you like with a little block right here, there's like a little symbol, and the symbols are on page that told where we looked at the colors. I think it was on page 3. So it shows you what colors they were using. So I'm going to do the white for the snowflakes. So let's get that in there and let those stitch out, and then this block will be done. All right. Whoops, I missed. Didn't get this up there. Sometimes if I don't get my thread all the way up and get it cut off, it doesn't thread. So there we go. All right. So this is going to be the snowflakes, and we'll be back in a minute when the snowflakes are done. Okay, so we got all of the little snowflakes done, and I don't know if you can really see them. They're very small, and they just kind of added a few little snowflakes in around the rest of the quilting. All right, so as this has been stitching, I had been looking through the instructions, and I thought, oh, we can do these all in a hurry, and they'll be really fun and fast. But you know, as I'm reading through these, we're going to do this month, the January, I'm going to do this in 3 separate videos to make the videos a little shorter. So we're going to do Chillin with my Snowmies in this video, and then we're going to do the first Snowmie and the second Snowmie. So we're going to do 3 Snowmies, 3 blocks in each video, just to keep the videos down on size or length, because there's a bunch of little techniques in here. So we're going to split this up a little bit. So this is the first block of the 3 that we'll do in this video. So when I do these pre-recorded videos like this, I am sewing along with you. I have not done this before. So sometimes I haven't thoroughly read all of the directions because I've done a lot of these. And I can grasp in my mind how long it takes to do things, or what techniques are in here. So in this case, we're going to split these up, and we're going to do 3 videos for the month of January, plus the assembly video. So there'll actually be 4, and I may be doing that with some of the other ones too, just to keep the videos down in length. So okay, so let's go ahead now. The next step number 3 of the actual design says, do not stitch this step. These lines are for design placement only. So it's just 2 lines at the top and the bottom. I can pull it over here so you can see. Just 2 lines at the top and the bottom. So we're not going to stitch that out. And we are complete with this block. Okay, so this block is complete. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get ready for the second block here. And I'm just going to take these blocks out of the hoop, and we will trim all of them at the end because of this video, because they are all trimmed the same way. They're all the same size. In this particular this particular one, we can do that because they are all the same size. All right, so there's my Chillin with my Snowmies. That looks like I have a couple little jump clips to clip in there, but we'll get those clipped. And then let's go on to the next block, which is going to be, let me see, turn the page here. And it looks like it's going to be Snowmie number 1, and it's going to be the little snowman with the blue knit cap. So I'll be right back. I have to grab another hoop and some more stabilizer. All right, so I've got all the pieces for Snowmie 1. We're just going to make one of these, and this is the little dude with the blue knit hat. So here's his little hat fabric. I grabbed that out of my embellishment kit. And then here is my white glitter vinyl. That's going to make the snowman. And then we need another one of the gray pieces of background fabric. So I got that. And then always when you use this glitter, it has a carrier sheet on it. This is actually heat transfer vinyl. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull that clear sheet off, the whole thing, because I will be using this like applique fabric. So I'm just going to pull that whole thing off like that. And I did not cut mine. I just hold it up so that I don't waste it. Then I have a little bit left over for other stuff. So sometimes I can get every single snowman out of the whole thing, and then we'll see how it goes. But I think there's 2 pieces in the embellishment kit. So I just pulled that so you can see the glitter now. I just pulled that clear transfer sheet off of there. And then I have of course, shape flex on the back of my fabric here, my background fabric. And we need to do, you will need wash away topping, the clear topping for this one, because we're going to put it over probably the hat when we have to do a little stitching on this knit hat. So we'll put that over there. And then we're going to do the quilting in the hoop again. And it's the same quilting design. So let's go ahead, go back to embroidery here. So this is Snowmie 1. So let's go back to my stick. And whoops, where did he go? Here he is. And we're going to get our background quilting first, and it's still going to be for this one, Winter 5. So we're going to do the Winter 5 for this one. Again, so it's the same one we did before. Okay. And then we're going to add again, and I'm going to go back and get Snowmie 1. So let's see here. Snowmie 1, embroidery files, January. And, I have to find him. I think it's this one. I think it's the one with the blue hat. I think that's him. Yes, this is him right here. That's Snowmie 1. All right, so we're going to grab that. And then it says in the instructions that align the block embroidery file with the quilting design file so that both files are centered. So they come in centered automatically, so that's where they need to be. And if you notice here, you are going to be cutting off a little bit of the snowman on the bottom. And I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if we can see it in this picture. See, here's the first one right here. This is the little guy. And you see, you are going to be cutting off the bottom of his little body a little bit, and that's fine. That's supposed to be like that. So you bring him in centered. All right, so we've got him in there. We're going to hit set and embroidery. We're going to start out the same way that we did with the other one, because we're starting with the quilting. So we're going to go ahead, step number 1, and do the placement line for the quilting. I've got my white thread in again, and my bobbin thread in the bobbin. So we'll do the quilting first. We get some of this fabric out of the way here. You should see my table. I've just got stuff everywhere. But this is the way I sew. Just probably you do too. I just have stuff laying everywhere. We'll get our batting up here. So I'm going to lay my batting down first. And I've just got my chunk here, and we're just going to do step number 2 and tack it down. I think it's going to go around it twice. This saves a lot of batting. I did the first couple of things that I did with the quilting files with with cutting the batting, And I don't like to cut very well. And so it was a lot of extra cutting because you had to cut all of those in addition to the fabric. So, and it was a quilt, as I remember. It was a larger item, and I had cut all that stuff. I think it might have been love notes. And after that, I thought, why do I need to cut this? I can just hold this up, and because you got to trim it off anyway, because they cut them a little bit too big, and you still got to trim it no matter what. So this way, it saved me a whole step. I'm into saving steps. I like to sew and do this as easy as possible. These are so fun to do. All right. So there is the trimming done. The third step is always going to be the placement line for your fabric. And some people just skip this step because you know where the fabric's going to be, but I want you to see how the steps are all the same in these. And there's times when we need this step, so that's why I don't like to skip it, because there are times we need it. Okay, and this is again going to be background 1, which is the gray. And this is the guy, yeah, the guy with the blue hat. Okay, so then we're going to put our fabric down over that placement line. Try to get it as centered as possible. And then step number 4 is always going to be the tack down line for the fabric. And then we're going to do the quilting. So step number 5 is going to be the quilting. I didn't realize how many techniques are in these. My goodness, there was a whole bunch. I started looking through, and there's fringe and all kinds of stuff. So we're going to split this up a little bit. Okay, so the next step then, step number 5, is going to be the quilting. So I'll get this started, and then I'll bring it back when it's about done, when we're ready to start the actual embroidery. Okay, so our quilting's all done, and the next step is actually the embroidery step. So the first step is going to be, let's see, some more snowflakes. So we're going to do the little snowflakes here. That is step number 1 of the actual embroidery. So we'll do that. I've still got my white thread in there, and then we'll go on to some applique. Okay, so we got the step number 1 of the actual design done with the snowflakes, and now step number 2 is the placement line for the snowman. So we're going to be doing the applique with the glitter next. So I'm going to leave my white thread in there, and we're going to do the placement line for the snowman. I'm going to get my vinyl ready here, and again, I didn't trim this down. This is the full, there was 2 sheets this size in the little kit. All right, so you can kind of see where he is here. And let's see. So you can kind of see where he is. It's a little hard on the video probably, but you can see where he is. And I'm just going to lay this up over that area. And you can tape this down if you want, but I'm just going to hold it in place. So lay your glitter vinyl. So I've got my glitter vinyl with the glitter side up. That clear plastic sheet is off of it, and then I am going, this is the tack down line for the applique. Okay, so then we're going to pull this out, and I'm going to trim close to the stitches. Now there are some SVG files on the CD if you want to cut these out in advance. Most of these shapes are so simple. I just trim in the hoop. I find I like to use my scan and cut to cut the designs out, and I do for certain things, especially very intricate things like lettering and stuff like that. I do, but these kind of things are so simple to cut out in the hoop. I usually do it that way. Okay, so here's our little snowman. Let's get him all, he's got a little tail sticking up here. Trim him close to the stitches all the way around here. And then when you use applique or when you use glitter vinyl, there's always an extra step that you do after you trim it, because it is actually heat transfer vinyl. So we're going to press this with a pressing cloth. with the iron before we go on to the next step. Okay, so we got that. Get this out of the way. Okay, and I'm going to bring this over to my little ironing pad over here. Now, you may see my kitty assistant. She had to come out and help me. So she's sitting over here. So I'm just going to tip the camera up, and I'm going to, so let's go this way. So there's my kitty assistant. She's monitoring what I'm doing here. And I've got my little iron heated up. I love this. This is my little Nifty Notions iron, and this works really well for the glitter vinyls and anything that you need to adhere in the hoop because it's small enough to fit inside your hoop. So I'm going to take this little, my hoop, and I'm going to lay it over here on my little roundabout. This is my small roundabout. And all I'm going to do is grab, oops, I have to grab my, let me go grab my pressing cloth. Okay, so I've got my little pressing cloth, and what my pressing cloth is an old tea towel. Okay, so I'm just going to lay this over my glitter vinyl because you don't want to put an iron directly on it. And we're just going to give it a good press, maybe about 20 seconds, and put a little pressure on it. Move it over a little bit because that's fairly good sized. And then it adheres that down to the fabric so that it won't pucker when you go to stitch around it. There we go. So then we're going to let it cool off just a little bit before we start sewing on it. But there is our little snowman, and he is all, move the camera back down, he is all pressed down to the fabric. So just, I like to let him dry, or not dry, cool before I sew on them again. So I just let it cool off. It's a little bit warm yet. And then the next step is going to be step number 4, and it's going to be the decorative outline for the snowman. So I'm just going to put him back in here. I think he's cool enough now. He's still a little warm though. I think I'll just let him cool for just a second. There we go. Oh yeah, he's much better now. So then I'm going to go ahead and start step number 4 of the actual embroidery, and it's going to be the decorative stitch that's going to go around the snowman. Okay, so the decorative outline's on there. It is very hard to see, but it's kind of a little motif stitch, very cute. And I think the next step then is going to be to stitch the winter hat placement line. So this is my little hat fabric, and I chose that darker bluish color for that. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my color to that. And I think that one was this blue-gray color. So it says Gray Aqua 1228. This is my brother colors. So we're going to use that one. And we'll get ready for his little hat. So do a placement line for that. Now that's one reason why I bought the embellishment kit, was I didn't know if I'd be able to find these cute little like stocking fabrics. So I thought, oh, that's cool. So I think I'm just going to get the embellishment kit. I usually do, because not all the time, but you know, sometimes I look through and see how many pieces there are, and if there's a lot of pieces of embellishment, it's just easier to buy the kit, and then you have all of them together. Okay, so there's his little hat. Let's see, that was step number, gotta get the, find the rest of my pages here. I'm trying to keep my pages. See, I don't have it bound yet, so I'm going to bind this before the next video. It's easier than all these loose pages. Okay. So then it says place the winter hat fabric right side up over the placement line and stitch the winter hat tack down. Okay, so then we're going to do, so see, the hat is very small, and see, this piece is pretty good size. So I'm just going to hold it up here and just cover it so that maybe I could use this for another piece, because I think there's enough room to get something else out of that. All right, so we're just going to do the tack down line then. And then we're going to trim this little applique. Now this one we don't have to press down, of course, because it's not heat transfer vinyl. And then it says to place the wash away topping over the top. So after we trim this, we're going to put some topping on. So let's trim this close to the stitches. And I kind of pull up a little bit. Now be careful because this is stretchy, so you don't want to pull too hard and ravel it. But I like to pull up a little bit so I can get closer to the stitches. Boy, that is ravelly though. Goodness. That knit stuff. I don't know exactly what, it's almost like ribbing. It looks like ribbing that you would use like on a sweatshirt or a t-shirt. Fabric, that type of fabric. I figured I could probably find it, but I didn't. I mean, with the embellishment kit, it's just so much easier. So see, now look, I've got enough. I could probably make 3 more hats out of that. So I'm just going to put that aside. And I might be able to use that again sometime. That's why I don't cut mine. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I think that's trimmed well enough. And now it says to put my little clear water-soluble topping. So when I put this on, I like to just tape it down. So I'm just going to get a little piece of topping here and trim that off. Get my little topping roll here, and I'm just going to trim a little piece off here. A little square piece, maybe, if I can get my scissors to go here. There we go. So we're just going to trim that off, and we're going to tape that down. I like to make it a little extra big so that I can get it taped down easily out of my way. So we'll lay this down here. And then I'm going to get some of my Kimberbell paper tape, and we're just going to tape it down. If you don't tape this down, it scoots. So definitely tape this down because it can wad up and be a very big mess if you don't tape it down. So I always secure this. All right. So there is my water soluble. And then the next step is going to be the satin stitch outline. So I'm going to leave the same blue in for my hat, and we're going to do the satin stitch outline next. Okay, so we've got our satin stitch around the hat fabric. Now I did notice that it says place the wash away topping covering the upper half of the snowman. So mine's a little short. I think they're actually having you leave the water soluble for the face, to stitch the face, and maybe the little scarf, because there's going to be a little scarf down here. I don't know that that's necessary. I stitch on I stitch on heat transfer vinyl all the time. So mine is a little short, so I'm going to pull that off after I get done with this next step, which is going to be the detail of the hat. And I think that's mainly why they had you put this on, is because this hat has a little detail on it, and it's white. It's like some little stripes. And so it would have gone down into the stitching. So I'm just going to do the white, and then I'm going to pull my, go ahead and pull my water soluble off. I'll try to look to see if they do that for all of the little snowman, and I'll try to remember to make this longer for the next one. Okay, so here is I put my white thread in the needle, and we're going to do this little detail on the hat. It looks like little stripes, like little chevron stripes actually. Okay, so I'm ready for step number 9 on page 9 of the instructions, and this is going to be the face detail. Now I did go ahead and pull off my water soluble. It wasn't quite long enough, and I think what they intended you to do is leave it on for the hat and then down through the scarf, but mine was a little short. I sew on the vinyl all the time without any water soluble, so it should be fine. So we're going to go ahead and do number 9, and this is going to do his face. It's the little eyes and his mouth, and then I think step number 10 is going to be stitch the arms detail. So we'll do the arms in the black as well. Okay, so there's his little eyes and his mouth, and then we're going to go ahead, step number 10 is his arms, and I'm going to leave the black in for that and do his little arms, step number 10. Okay, so we're ready for step number 11, which is his little nose. So I've put in my 126 pumpkin orange and sew out his nose. Okay, so for the next step, it says change the bobbin thread to a water-soluble thread or a visible color. So in other words, we're going to be making some fringe. Since I have my tight bobbin case in and the fringe is just a teeny little bit on the end of the scarf, I am going to choose the option of a visible color, and I have black pre-wound bobbins, so I'm going to replace my white pre-wound bobbin with a black one. It makes it a little easier to see your thread then. Sometimes the black doesn't really show much, but in this case it will be enough. You can also use water-soluble thread here, and then you would spritz it. I just didn't want to have to do that for how little water-soluble there is. This is very good wash-away. This is the Madeira wash-away thread, and you can wind a little bit of this on your bobbin. So if you're not using pre-wounds and you've got a wound bobbin you did yourself, then you wouldn't have to change your bobbin cases. I would have to change my bobbin case for this. So I'm going to opt for the visible color, which is the black. And we're going to put this back in, and we're going to stitch the scarf fringe. So my fringe on my scarf, this one's going to be yellow. So my yellow here, and I think my yellow was Fashion Glow, and it's 1321. So I'm going to put that one in my needle, and I've got that black in the bobbin thread so I can see it when I go to trim it. And I've done most of my, fringe with the old-fashioned way, and it works just fine, but it is nice if you can see the bobbin thread just a little bit. The other thing you could do is, if you have another pre-wound, I usually have black around. Most time black works. So I just did the little fringe for that. And it's so little. It's just like 2 teeny little spaces, so I thought the black ought to work fine for that. And then we're going to change the bobbin thread back to the white. So that was the fringe that I did with the black, and we'll turn it over so you can see it here. Okay, so let's turn this over, and you can kind of see the black thread right there. It's right there, and then there's just a teeny little bit right here. It's so little, okay, but you can see it with the black. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take that one out. I'll just leave this one up here on my machine, and we'll put the regular pre-wound back in. That's what the instruction says to do. And then we're going to do the scarf, which is going to still be my yellow. Helps if you put your bobbin door back on. And we'll do the scarf. Okay, so we're going to do the scarf, and I'll be back in a minute, and we will do the finishing. So then we're going to do the fringe. Okay, so there's our scarf, and the fringe area is going to be just down here on these little ends. You can see it's sewed fine without the water soluble since I didn't have mine big enough. We'll try that on the next one though to see if it makes any difference. Now the last step and this is step number 14. It actually says do not stitch this step. It's a placement line to keep everything placed where they want it. So we don't have to sew out the last step. So now we're going to do our fringe. So give me a second here. We're going to pull this out, and I like to leave it in the hoop when I'm doing the fringe, and I'm going to have to go grab my glasses here just a moment. My kitty assistant is still here. She's helping me today. All right, so then I'm going to go look at for my fringe, and I'm going to go, I've got a seam ripper. I'm just going to use a seam ripper, and we're going to cut through just those little black lines. And it's very hard because they're tiny, tiny, and there's not many of them. So I'm just going to do the best I can here. When we change the thread back to the white, what it did is it did like a trapping stitch that traps those little fringe pieces. So this is very little fringe, and to me it's not worth all that water soluble and getting everything wet. So and then I'm going to turn it over, and I'm just going to take my fingernail and pull those little fringe pieces up with my nail. Ooh, that turned out pretty good. Let's see here. So always a little harder with the vinyl in there. So I might need to, was that the one I needed to do? Yeah, that one's the one that's kind of tight yet. So let me see. I think there's still a couple of threads down here I need to trim. But the black really helps. Then you can see it a little bit better. And I didn't have to change my bobbin case out. So that's my goal here, is I didn't have to change my bobbin case. So there's our fringe. That looks good. I can see the little, but there's so little. That's why I decided not to use the water soluble. I do use water soluble when I'm doing larger pieces, because then you get the nice little loops, and don't take the chance of cutting through the loops. But this was a small piece, so these were fine. Okay, there's still a couple of little loops down here. I don't know if there's another. There must be a little piece of thread I didn't get through. Maybe that one, and maybe the one on this one yet. Did I get it? I think there's one more little piece down there that I didn't get. There we go. Let's see here. It's always a little harder to get, there we go. It's always a little harder to get them out from the vinyl because it's a little stiff. So there, that looks better. All right, so there's our fringe. Let's see if there's this one. There's still one that up here that doesn't want to come out, but let's see. It's up here. Must be a little piece right here. There. Let's see if we can get that one. There we go. Okay, now we got our fringe. All right, so there is the fringe on the Snowmie number 1. This is Snowmie 1, right? Yeah, Snowmie 1. And then we're ready to do Snowmie 2. I think we're ready for the next one. So there's our first one. And I'm going to take the rest of that water-soluble topping off of here, because this one had all those little teeny tiny stitches, and I might have to go take a little damp rag, because this one's really tight in here, so we'll do that. But there's Snowmie 1, which is the second block for this video, and we're going to move on to the next block. So the next one's going to be another cute little snowman. We'll do the trimming at the end with all 3 of them. And then this one's going to have like a little pom-pom on the top of his hat. And also, what did it say? Oh, and some little buttons down here for his little buttons on his front. So that will be done a little bit later. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready for the next block, which will be Snowmie 2. Okay, so for Snowmie 2, it's going to be this cute little one with the little earmuffs. So this one I think is all sewn. I don't think there's any special techniques in this one. So we're going to use the other color of fabric for the background this time. So this time I'm going to use this blue, and I've got the Shape Flex on the back, and then I'm going to use my 019 sky blue thread, because I'm going to quilt it with that. And this one has a different quilting design as well. So we're going to go over here, and we're going to get our quilting design up first. And let me go get that. And let's see, mini quilts. Let's get the background quilting first. Now I have the background quilting inside my folder, you can see, and I did it just the ones I needed. So that's why they're like this. So Pebble is the one they're using. This one's called Pebble. Horizontal design. So let's see, Pebble 2. And here's the embroidery, and it says there's a horizontal. So let's see. We need the 4x4, and I think it's this one, the one that goes this way, because you can see there's one going this way. So it's the one going, yeah, so it's this one. This is the horizontal one. So we're going to bring that in first, and then I'm going to hit add, and then I'm going to go in to my mini quilts, the embroidery files, and I'm going to go into January again, and this is Snowmie number 2. It's the one with the little earmuffs here, the pink earmuffs. All right, so bring that one in, and again this one says align the block embroidery file with the quilting design file so that both files are centered. So we just got it centered, so and it will automatically come in centered for you. Okay, all right, so we're going to hit embroidery, and now we're going to start with our quilting, of course, like we have been. I'm going to go over here, and we will do step number 1 of the quilting, which is going to be our placement line. And I'm just going to use my blue because that's the one I want to use for my actual quilting. So I just left that in there. Got my chunk of batting ready. So this is Snowmie 2. And it starts on page 10 of the instructions. All right, so then we're going to lay this over the placement line, our batting. I've got kind of a long strip here, so there we go. Second step of the quilting will be the tack down line. And I have some Gigi hair in my batting here always. She always has to sit right up here with me. She's she's resting right now, so she's very comfortable over here. I think she likes the sewing machine because it kind of, you know, vibrates the table. It's probably very relaxing. Sort of like a little kitty vibrator, right? Like a vibrating table. She's so funny. She spends most of her day sleeping, so. All right. So here is our tack down line for our batting. So we're going to go ahead and trim this. And if you haven't seen my scissors, I forgot to tell you about my scissors. These are my Ginger double curved embroidery scissors. And these are so nice because you can get very close and they're very sharp. And they have great points on them. And these are also on the website. I'll try to get all these things linked in the description below the video here. So these Ginger scissors, I go through a lot of scissors because I do embroider a lot, but these are so great for this precise trimming. Okay, and then the next step number 3, is always the placement line for the fabric. Ooh, it even caught this time. Look at that. You don't have to do the little trick again. This one's really cute. I don't think there's any special techniques other than we will be using a piece of water soluble also with this one. So yeah, we need the water soluble with this one too. So we'll try putting it over, like if it says half the body, we'll do that this time and see if it makes any difference. I don't think it really will. But I know that knit hat really, whoops, let's see. I think I want this, I think I want it this way. This one does have a little bit, well, I guess it doesn't. Was seeing if it was directional, but I don't really think it is. It's kind of an optical illusion. Okay, so I'm going to lay that over. Step number 4 is always going to be the tack down line for your fabric of the quilting. Okay. And then step number 5 will be the quilting. And this one is called Pebble 2. So it's kind of little round circles. So we'll get that started. And I'll be back in a moment when we start the actual embroidery. Okay, so there's our quilting. You can see the little bubbles in there. Those are really cute. I guess they called it pebbles. All right, so now we're ready to go on to the actual embroidery section, and we're going to stitch the earmuff detail first. So it says to do that in white. So it's like the little top of the earmuffs. Get my white in here. And then the next step will be the actual earmuffs, and those are going to be in that mauvey pink. Okay, so I've got the little top of the earmuffs, and now we're going to do an earmuff over here in that mauve pink. And my mauve pink is 0205 mauve pink. So we're going to get that one on here, and then the next step we'll go back to the white, and we're going to be doing the applique for the snowman with our glitter vinyl. So you have your glitter vinyl ready for the next step. Okay, so I've got my little earmuff over here, one of them. The other one I think is going to be on the vinyl, so they do that one later. So the next step then, and this is step number 3 in the instructions on page 10, is to stitch the placement line for the snowman. So have your glitter vinyl ready, and see, I didn't cut mine, so remember we just kind of trimmed away. And this is going to be the placement line for the little snowman. And we'll do our applique here with our vinyl. Give me a second here. I got a big tail sticking up. Don't want that underneath my vinyl, so get that out of there. All right, and then we're going to lay the vinyl over the placement line. And again, we can be very careful with this vinyl, so I could use some more of it again. So I'm just going to just barely cover everything. I'm just using my big piece here. I'm going to hold it down, and I'm just going to trim. The next step will be the tack down line, excuse me, of the glitter vinyl. I didn't have much room over here, so I think we'll be okay. Just barely. Yep. All right. So there's our little snowman, and then we're going to trim. We're going to trim close to the stitches. Get this trim close. I love their glitter vinyl. It's got kind of iridescent sparkles in it. So trim close to the stitches. Careful not to go through them. And then we're going to do the pressing again, because we need to press this down to the fabric. Here's our little earmuff. Evidently we decided to wake up over here, so now you're about to see a cat. So I apologize. She has to help me, you know. The machine stopped. She likes the machine to run because it's just that little purring motion. So I think she likes the machine when it's running. So when it stops is when she usually gets up. Okay, so there is our little snowman trimmed. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring my camera up over here again to a sitting up cat now. And I'm going to lay this over on my little roundabout. And this is the ironing pad, by the way. So we're going to lay this up here, and I'm going to grab my pressing cloth, lay it over my vinyl, and just press that down. And I'm going to put a little pressure on it. About 20 seconds or so. And then we'll let it cool off. And I have my little iron set. I think it's almost all the way up. It gets pretty hot, so I'll give it one more little press. But you want to make sure you use your pressing cloth so you don't burn your vinyl or scorch it or anything. Okay, that should be good. All right. Set this back over here. All right. So then we're down here. And I'm going to let it cool off a little bit. Let's see. Now, Gigi, you're going to have to move because you're sitting on the instructions. Sorry. Okay. Then it says to stitch the snowman decorative outline. That's the next step. So I'm going to leave the white in for that. Oops, I think I almost unthreaded my needle. So we'll do the decorative outline next, and then we're going to put our wash away on top. So we'll see if it makes any difference. All right, so here's our decorative line. And this is step number 5 in the instructions on page 10. All right, and then we'll come back and do the face and the other earmuff. Okay, so I'm going to cover it says to cover the top half again, so we'll just do that. I've actually got enough here to basically cover the whole thing, so we'll just tape it down. Get my Kimberbell tape here and tape it down. Okay, and then it says to move, we're going to do the other earmuff first. So let's get my mauve thread back up here, and we will do step number 6 in the design. That is the other earmuff. And then step number 7 is going to be the little cheeks. So we'll leave the same color in for that. So here's the other earmuff with the water soluble on top. Okay, so we got our little earmuff over here, and the next step, which is step number 7 on the instructions, is still going to be in the mauve pink, and it's the little cheeks. So we're going to stitch those out, and then we're going to move on to the face, which will be in black. Okay, so I've got my black in, and I'm going to, this is step number 8 on page 10, the face details. So it's going to be, I think, his little eyes and his mouth. And then we'll move on to the arms, but I may make a little change when I do the arms just for safety's sake. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so we've got the little face on here, the little eyes and the mouth, but the next step is also in black, and it's the arms, step number 10. But do you notice that my water soluble is a little short over here? And it really didn't say that the arms were going to be, you know, with the water soluble, although if I would have read a little further down, I would have noticed. But I'm going to go ahead and remove this water soluble because I'm afraid that my foot is going to get stuck underneath the edge over here. So you would have to actually make your water soluble quite large in order to get it big enough for these arms. So I'm just going to take this off, and I think what I'll do is I'm going to use the water soluble for the knit pieces, but not for the other pieces, just because I sew on this vinyl all the time and I've never had any trouble sewing on it. So we're just going to take that off for safety's sake for our arms. So the next step is the arms. So we're going to go ahead and sew the little arms on, and then we're going to go back to, then it'll be the nose. And like I said, I don't really have any trouble sewing on the glitter vinyl, but I do have problems with my foot getting stuck underneath my water soluble, so I don't want to have to ruin my whole design. So we took that off for safety's sake. All right, so step number 10 on page 10 is going to be the nose. So I've got my orange number 126 pumpkin in, and I did not turn the page, you know how that goes. And we actually do have to do some more fringe. So I didn't get my page turned, so we are going to do fringe next. Or I forgot that we also have a little scarf on this one that's going to have some fringe. All right, so we're the fringe. So before step number 11, we're going to change the bobbin thread to a water-soluble thread or visible thread. So we're going to go back to that black again, that black pre-wound. So I'm going to grab my black pre-wound here and put it in my bobbin since I have my tight bobbin case in. And when I was talking about the tight bobbin case, let me see if I can get this in. I don't know if you can see the polka dot very well, but there's a blue dot down in here. There we go, blue dot down here. And this is for those pre-wounds because the pre-wound thread is never as thick. And if you're winding your own, you do not have to change your bobbin case up for embroidery, just if you're using pre-wounds. Okay, so there's my black bobbin thread, and then we're going to stitch the scarf fringe, but I can't remember what color the scarf is. So let's see here. What color is the scarf on this one? It doesn't say. Oh, it must be that green. It's that minty green. It's this color. That'll be really pretty. So I'm going to put that in the needle here. Got the black in the bobbin, and it's going to stitch the fringe just like it did on the last one. First, me with the black bobbin thread. I like that really light mint color. It's very pretty. They actually call it light blue. So it's light blue, 12, second here, I can't see the numbers, 1226 in the brother. All right, so bring this in here, and we're going to do scarf fringe. And then we're going to change that bobbin back out again to do the rest of the scarf. So what it's doing is it's doing the fringe part right now, and then it's doing the trapping stitch with the regular thread. And if you're using the water soluble here, that would be the same. So it stops the design in between the fringe section and the trapping section so that you can change your bobbin. All right, so there's that, and that was done with the black, so we should be able to see that fairly well on the back. Okay, and I'm going to take my black bobbin out now, and I'm just going to put my white one back in. This saves me a lot of time not having to change bobbin cases. So the water soluble, like I said, I like the water soluble. It works very well when you're doing large pieces of fringe, but this is so small, I can just trim these with no problem. Okay, so then we're going to go back, and step number 12 is going to be the actual the actual scarf. Okay, so again, the next step, which is 13, says do not stitch this. It's just a placement line, so we're not going to stitch the last step. But now we're going to take this out, and I'm going to flip it over, and we're going to do our fringe. Excuse me. So here is the black bobbin thread. There's right here and right here. So I'm just going to carefully use my seam ripper. And it's better just to do 1 or 2 threads at a time. Don't try to do them all. That was always our mistake, is that trying to do like all of them at the same time. And it's better just to do 1 or 2 threads at a time. Makes it easier. Like that. Okay, so let's turn it over and see how we did. So it's these little pieces right down here. There we, oh, that looks good. So here's this one. This one's a little shorter. Must have missed one of the threads on that one. I'll go back and check. I think I got all of them on this one. There we go. Let's see. I think it's up here. There must be one thread that I didn't catch. Let's see. Looks like I got them all. Maybe I just didn't. And coax it out. There we go. Okay, so there's our little, we got one little trailer here, so we're just going to trim him. There we go. There we go. So there's our little scarf on that one. Isn't that cute with the, I really like the earmuffs. Those are really cute. So that is Snowmie number 2. And we are going to do the trimming now, and I'm going to stop the video. This will be the first video. So I'm going to do the trimming on all 3 of these, and they're going to be trimmed the same way. And then we'll do video 2 will be the next 3 Snowmies. So it's Snowmie 3, 4, and 5. And then we'll do 6, 7, and 8 in a third video, just to keep the videos a little shorter. So give me just a moment. I'm going to get ready to do the trimming. Okay, so now we're going to do our trimming on all 3 of our blocks. And they're all trimmed the same way, because actually all the blocks in this particular one are the same size. So square the block to 4.5 by 4.5 with the snowman centered horizontally, and with the bottom of the snowman against the inner bottom edge of the ruler. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll do that one first, where the little one with the pink here goes. Okay. So in other words, where our lines are that we used for the, I'm going to use my orange pop ruler, and I'm going to look for my lines that I used for my quilting, and those placement lines should help you get it lined up. They're not going to be exact, but you'll be very close. With it's a little hard to see because I use that same line, but it's this tack down line out on the outside edge. So I'm using that to help me center this. It looks pretty good. And we'll just center it. And I've got it on my little rotating, this is a roundabout. This is the small one, and I really like this because then you can move this. So I'm going to take my rotary cutter, and I'm going to go into the corner over here. And I am left-handed, so you're working, I always have to tell everybody I'm left-handed. So what I like to do is I like to pull, I like to set the blade up into the middle kind of, and then pull back into the corner. And you are cutting on the inside. So if you haven't used these, practice a little bit. The other option is to just draw a line on the inside ones. On the inside, and then you could use a regular rotary ruler and blade to do that. So there is our first block. And we're actually going to be stitching through the bottom of the little snowman here, and that's fine. Okay, so there's the first one. Let's get our other little snowman here. I'm going to go back and look at my instructions, though, and make sure there was nothing special I had to do. I think it's okay. All right, let's see here. Where's the other little guy here? Yep, just line him up at the bottom, just like this one. So we're good with that. Get this out of our way. Put this little dude down. And this one you should be able to see the lines a little bit better. So I'm just kind of lining up those placement lines, or tack down line for the fabric, I should say, and then I can make sure it's kind of centered. And then we're going to do the same thing. So I like to kind of start, oops, I like to start up just a little ways in the ruler. I'm going to pull back and push forward. And you do want to have a sharp blade when you're doing this. Just be careful. And I'm quite deliberate when I use my orange pop rulers, because it is a little weird feeling since you're working on the inside of the ruler instead of the outside. So it's taken me a little getting used to, but once you do them a few times, then it feels better. It's more natural. Okay, so there's our little guy. So this is the first one. This is the second Snowmie, or Snowmie, I should say. First Snowmie, second Snowmie, and then we need to have our little words here. So get our word block, and we'll trim this one. And then we'll be ready for another video. So we'll stop this video and we'll go to video. We're going to have 4 videos for this first month. Boy, they started out with a bang, didn't they? All these little techniques and everything. So we'll just break it up a little bit so the videos aren't so long. All right. Turn. That's why I love these roundabouts. If you don't have one of these roundabouts, I have one these on the website, and I'll link some of this stuff. But oh my gosh, these are so, they turn. A lot of the turning mats are very sluggish and they don't turn well. These have a Lazy Susan on them and they're great. All right, so there is Chillin' with my Snowmies. So there's our first 3 blocks. And this will be the end of the first video. In the second video, we're going to do Snowmie 3, 4, and 5. So I'll be back with the second video for the month of January and the mini quilts.